Hello to Michelle Laverick. Music, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Ruben. Thanks for having me on the show again.
Thank you to chat to you again today. So, can you me roughly how long have you been a singer songwriter for?
Um, I've been playing music since I was 16, and I would maybe write a song every 5 or 10 years. So I couldn't say I was particularly prolific. But in the last 3 years, since 2023, I've written loads of songs. They've just somehow spill out of me. And at the same time, I've been really interested in folk music of the British Isles. So I've been learning about folk music and trying to incorporate that into what I do. So relatively recently, and I think there's a generation of people my age. I'm going to tell you how old I am. I'm in my mid 50s, who are perhaps only finding their creative spark later in life rather than maybe when they were really, really young. So for about 3 years, I'd say seriously.
So, would you like to go into the recording studio to record your very first album, songs on that cold conservatory?
Yeah, that kind of came out about accidentally. I wrote a couple of songs and I was just doing demos on my phone and I was sending them to my brother, trying to get a feeling of whether he thought they were any good, to be honest with you, because it's not something I do very often. And my brother said to me, "You should record these." And at the same time, a friend of mine, David Redfern, who lives locally, had said to me, "You should record your stuff." And I was a bit, I'm not too sure, because at that stage I wasn't really writing many songs of my own. But David and my brother kind of persuaded me to have a go. And as we started recording what we thought would be a three-track EP, more songs came along. And so I ended up releasing an 8-track album, which wasn't really part of the plan, I'd have to say. And I thought at that point that would be it. It would be like a little project. I'd do an album, and I'd be able to say, "Look, I've got a CD of original songs," and that would be the end of it. But it's just kept on going since then. And that first album was very well received. I think people were surprised it was all originals because so many people do like either traditional folk songs or covers. And it got picked up by the BBC here in Derbyshire and Leicester and Lincolnshire. So I was on the radio a few times with that and even managed to get a week on the radio doing one song every night, together with a little bit of an introduction to the song and how it came to be written. So, and that was as much a surprise to me that happened. But yeah, and it's just grown from there, really.
So, tell me more about your second EP that is called Selkie Child.
Selkie Child, yeah, that came out in 2024. And it was a project. I managed to get some support slots with a musician called Martin Stevenson, who's part of a band called Martin Stevenson the Dainties. Now, I've been following Martin since I was in my teens, so it's like, and so the project was to get that EP out of newer material, of things that I was writing that year, ready in time for doing the support slots with Martin. And in case people don't know what a Selkie is, it's a mythological creature who comes out of the sea, takes off their skin, a seal skin, and underneath there is a woman. And then she has a relationship with a man, and they have children, and she has a life on land, which is quite different for her life on in the sea. And there's always that tension about whether she's going to stay in the human world or go back to the sea. And there's lots of very famous songs about Selkies. And I joked at the time that I was on the 100-step program to become a folk musician. Step one, write a song about a Selkie. Step two, write a song about birds. Step three, take an original folk song and radically change it so it almost bears no recognition to the original. So I think I don't know where I am now on this program, but I joked at the time that once complete, you get like a little certificate that says you're officially a folk musician, whatever that might mean. But yeah, so came out last year, and I was really pleased with that EP. I managed to get a review of a magazine called Cloth Magazine, KLOF, which is folk backwards. So I was really pleased to actually get like my first proper review from a magazine for something I've created was quite a buzz.
That you're proud of that moment.
Yes, very much so.
So, can you tell me more about your latest EP called the Helm Wind?
Here it is.
Here it is.
Bit of product placement. So yeah, I've got this idea now. The album was a bit of an accident. In fact, I almost call it an accidental album. And my plan is to do an EP like this every year. Um, and The nice thing about an EP is it's a smaller format than an album, so they're a little bit quicker to do. And it means I can release something very frequently rather than an album and a 3 year gap and an album and a 3 year gap or whatever. I can bring something out every year to promote and find gigs. So, in case people don't know, the Helm Winds are the only named winds here in the UK. We don't have any wind that's named in the UK except the Helm Winds, and they're in the north, in the far north of England, and they kind of come about through some sort of unique atmospheric conditions, but they're incredibly strong winds. And so the people who live in the Helm Windsor area are quite hardy people. They're known as the fell footers, and they sort of have learned to live with the fact that they have these extremely strong winds. And I guess part of the metaphor of the first song is all about the winds and how they shape the environment, and specifically how they shape the trees. And I was on a songwriting retreat with Iona Lane and Katie Spencer up in Scotland that year. And I noticed where we were in the valley, the trees were tall and straight because we were sheltered and there was no winds around. Where I live in the Peak District, if you drive up into the Peak District, the trees are almost horizontal, blown by the winds. So, although I don't know what the trees look like in this area, I imagined that they leaned into the wind. And so there's a bit of a metaphor about life, I guess. Some people's lives, they get to grow tall because they live in a life of comfort. Some people have to learn to bend with the winds because things are so harsh. They have to learn to bend with the winds. So I kind of imagine a set of people who are like when you go on a walk, if you're walking into the wind, sometimes you have to lean into the wind, head down to get through it. So it's a bit of a very convoluted metaphor all about that, which I got from learning about the Hellmans on a YouTube video of all things I watched about that area, which is not far from where I was born, in fact. And I just thought, oh wow, what an amazing thing! And that's what was going around in my head when the EP was wrote, and that's where it got its title from.
So, what other tracks are on that EP you got there?
I've got a second song called "Birds That Do Fly." That was a song written after going to see Paul Weller play at Scarborough Open Air Theatre. And my orange van, which I travel around in, was kind of broken down, so I had to get the train. And as I was driving out on the train coming out of Scarborough, heading towards York, you know, when you're on a train, you can sort of stare out the window and your mind kind of unwinds. This bird flew almost in parallel with the train and then sort of swept over us as if it was traveling faster than the train because of the angle of it. And it made me think, what must it be like to be inside that bird, to be inside that bird, viewing me from the train, as opposed from me viewing the bird. So it's sort of all tied up with nature, really, and um, whether we can become a bird, whether we can become free and fly as humans and be able to do whatever we like in life, and how difficult or how challenging that might actually be. So, That's that track. Would you want me to go through all the tracks and tell you
Yeah,
about
you might
them?
as well. Might as well do all of them now, I guess.
I'll start to finish. I'll try and keep it brief because I do go on. The third track is called High Force, and it's about a waterfall in the northeast that's called High Force, and it's near the source of the River Tees. And I was born in Teesside, Stockton on Tees. I used to go down to the river, every week, and sort of mooch about that area. And that song's when I went to High Force in March or April of last year, and I went partly to see the waterfall and you know soak up the area, and also to see a musician called Johnny Campbell, who's kind of an intrepid walker of the Pennine Way with a guitar on his back every night, a different gig, 15, 20 miles on his with his guitar. And I wanted to see him actually do the tour and be there while he was doing that. Anyway, I came out of the waterfalls and there was one of these big boards that sort of explained the history of the place. And it said that the falls had probably been there for 300 million years. And I was like, cranky. And I was struck by how some things in nature are very brief, like the blossom on the tree. And some things in nature last for way beyond even our existence on this earth and will probably continue after our time on this earth. So I was like interested in the difference between those two. And then the fourth track is called The Snow It Melts the Soonest. This is a traditional folk song. My friend Bex Vaughan Johnson from the Isle of Isla sings on this song at the end. It's perhaps one of the most sexist, misogynist songs in the English folk canon, because the subject of the song is Guy basically saying to a woman, "It doesn't matter what I do, you'll always come crawling back to me the next day and forgive me." And so I tried to flip it on the head and give the woman the main voice, and actually added a new verse to the song to give that person more of a voice. Because as I listened to this guy go on and on and on about how he was so wonderful and brilliant and how she will always come crawling back to him, I thought, he's kind of overplaying his hand a little bit and pretending that he's got more power than he really has. So when people project that, often what's happening underneath is something that's a little bit more weaker than they perhaps imagine. And then the last track, there's a bonus track which I released as a single, but the last track written by me is a Christmas song called The Christmas Parting Song. And it's really a song I think that a lot of people might identify, which is a lot of people these days, they move away from where they were born, and either for education or for career. Sometimes people come back after doing that time away and they settle in the place they were born, but we're much more as a country distributed, you know. And maybe 50 years ago, entire families, aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, would all live within the same local area. We're now sort of spread out a lot more. So the song is about that pilgrimage that people make back to where they were born, usually because that's where their parents are, spend Christmas with them, and then have to leave and come home. And I've been doing that really now for nearly 30 years. Maybe actually, if I miscalculated that, let's do the additions of the calculations. No, it's 40 years, nearly 40 years. Yeah, so I left for uni, and I was always coming backwards and forwards when I was at uni to see the family. And then more recently, because my mum's not been so well, I've been going back a lot more frequently to see her and kind of help with my brothers, look after my mum a bit and make sure she's okay. So it's a bit of a sad song for Christmas, but also it's a song about love and being there for people, no matter how far away you are. You always come back like a bird. Here we are, back to birds again, back to the nest to see the family before fluttering off to do some next things. So that's the EP, and then there's a little bonus track on the end, a traditional folk song called Oak and Ash and Thorn, which I actually released in January of last year, and then decided I'd just put it on the end of the EP as a kind of bonus track to thank people for buying the CD.
So, are you working on any new music in the near future?
I've always got new music on the go. I've probably got in my library of demos about 20 or 30 songs, and decide, when the next project comes along. And I play those live usually for at least a year. And then when it comes to thinking about doing a new recording, I'll pick the ones that I like best. Often the danger, I think, with some of the stuff I do is songs wrote 2 years ago never end up getting properly recorded because there's a new song that I've written 3 months ago, and that's the one I really, really want to record and put on the EP. So at some stage, I'll have to do an album of original songs that are of a decent length to make sure those poor little songs don't get neglected. So I see them as a little bit like children who were like, why haven't you recorded me? You wrote me 2 years ago. I'm like, well, I've got this new child that needs all my attention and I'm looking after it. So the plan is to record another EP in October. And this time I'm going to a place in Cambridge, and I'll be recording with a musician there who I can't mention their name just yet because it's still sort of in the works. But I love what she does. She's very highly regarded. And so she's going to be doing the recording and the producing, and she might even appear on the EP depending on whether we need her to be on it. So I'm very excited to record with someone. Without mentioning any names, she's toured in the UK, she tours in Europe, she tours in the US. So for me, it's like, what an opportunity to spend time with this person and get a little bit of their magic sprinkled on my music.
Yes, I think I know who we might be talking about. So I think I've seen this person live.
All right, maybe it is the person that we're thinking of, but I won't mention
Hmm.
it. Still, we've kind of penciled in October, but it could move around depending on her touring schedule. But it looks like October will be the time that it happens. And we spoke at the beginning of this year to pencil in those dates. It's a big change for me because for the last two EPs, I've gone to a studio in Derby, near where I live, and it's Ben Haynes who's done all the production, mixing, and stuff on this. So it was quite a big deal for me to say to Ben, look, I think for this EP, I'm going to go to this person. And I said to Ben, it's a one-off opportunity. But who knows? I might be back with Ben in 2027 for the next EP. So, yeah. And the other idea I've got, if I keep on cranking out these EPs every year, at the end of this decade, when we get to 2030, what I might do is a compilation of all the best tracks off the EPs and do vinyl. So I'd really love to have a vinyl album and then have that mixed of those. Yeah, so there's lots of things gonna be happening over the next couple of years with my music.
Well, that's good. Look forward to hearing about that. So, I know you're kind of going on tour soon, a mini tour soon. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes, that kind of got sparked by me being approached by Morag at Roslin Court in Margate. She approached me and asked me to play at Roslin Court, which for musicians of my kind of style and quality, and like kind of what we do, it's part of a much bigger circuit. Places like Green Note in Camden Town, Cafe 9 in Sheffield, the Kitchen Garden in Birmingham, Brett's Place in Kings Heath. It's part of a wider English circuit of music venues that promote original material or folk music and have a kind of warm, intimate place. I played at Cafe 9 a couple of times last year. So it was Morag's suggestion that I try and put some dates together and travel further south. So I'm starting off with a couple of folk club gigs where I just turn up and play along with everybody else. So I'm going to be at Welly Folk Club in Wolverston Village in the northeast on the 16th, and at Robin Hood's Bay Folk Club near Whitby on the 17th. And then my first paid gig, I'll be playing at Saltburn Community Hall on the 18th of April, and I'll be supporting a musician there called Jenny Biddle, who I've not seen before, but she's an Australian musician who lives in Scotland, so that's an interesting fusion.
Yeah.
And then I'm down to Tonbridge on the 20th, doing two sets there, about 40 minutes each at the folk club there. And then I've got a couple of folk club gigs where I'm just going to turn up and sing with everybody else. Sharp's Folk Club in London, Darlington Folk Club in the northeast, Ring of Iron in Middlesbrough, Cutty Wren Folk Club in Redcar. And then I'm heading back down south. I'm going to drop in on Faversham Folk Club and play there, and then end the little tour with my gig in Roslin Court, Margate. There were a couple of other gigs that were meant to happen during then, kind of more local to you. I was going to be playing in Eastbourne this year, but the gig got rescheduled, so I'll be in Eastbourne next year in 2027. And then I've got another gig in the northeast in Middleton and Teesdale, not far from High Force. So lots of stuff going on, but it's my first real attempt to basically take 2 weeks off the paid job and then travel around the country and try and get out of Derbyshire and play a bit in the northeast and some gigs in the southeast as well.
So, what's it like being an independent artist for you?
It's fun. It's a bit like being a small business person because you have to do everything. You have to write the songs, record the songs, promote the songs, market the songs, get the CD made, get it mixed, get it mastered, organize your gigs, organize your own tour. So there's a lot to do. It would be lovely at some stage, I think, to be able to do this full time, but it's still early days for me. To quit the day job and actually do music full time would be quite a stretch. But I'd love to be able to do that someday. And yes, it's. I think the big thing is that just putting things online when the internet first came on, it was like, way, but lots of people can put stuff online now. So how do you get yourself noticed in a very crowded place of lots of other really talented musicians? So my little trick, and this is a tip for any independent musician, is get yourself a big list of people like Ruben who run their own independent radio show. Get yourself some Christmas cards, pop your CD inside the Christmas card, and then post it directly to the DJ. You can do that all through email, but email gets lost, email gets deleted, email gets forgotten about. But there's still a role for a physical CD that somebody gets into the studio, opens up a card, Merry Christmas, and in there is the CD, and it gets popped on the side, and people see it, and people pick it up, and then go, I should have a listen to that. So yeah, that's how I've managed to get most of my radio play at the beginning of this year. I was really pleased to be on RTE1, Ireland's Radio 1, essentially, for Ireland on their folk show. That was my first national radio play. So yeah, it's a big tip. And if there are any independent musicians out there who are looking for a handy list of independent acoustic roots folk shows, get in touch, because you can have my spreadsheet with all those people's postal addresses so you can send your stuff to them and hopefully do the same thing. But I always say it's like they think they're getting a Christmas card. Who's this from? And it's from me with my CD inside.
And it can be the good old classic CD.
Mm. I still buy CDs if I go and see someone live. Unless I've pre-ordered the CD, I'll buy their music there and then. And because of where I live, it takes me the epicenter of folk for where I am is York. Sorry, is Sheffield, and it's really a lot of stuff goes on there. So I'm always driving there. It takes about 50 minutes there and 50 minutes back, which is just enough time to stick on a CD, listen to an album on the way there, and listen to it again on the way back, or pick another CD. And I still have a CD player in my van because it's not that modern. There's something about having a physical thing. For a while, I stepped into the whole downloading MP3s. This is when people used to buy the tracks on Amazon and stuff like that. And I found that I downloaded things and never listened to it. So it's all well and good having a million songs on your phone, but when you actually sit and listen dedicated to a whole batch of songs from your phone, there's a lot of skipping and just listening to one song or putting on shuffle. Whereas of the LP format or the CD format, you get to hear a body of songs together. And that I think still has a power to it, which is different from just a digital file on a phone that's being streamed to your phone.
It's so funny. Can you tell me, listeners, where can I find you on your social media?
Okay, well, I'm on everything. If you search for Michelle Laverick music, yeah, you will find me on all the socials because I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Mastodon. I'm on Twitter as well. I've come back to Twitter. I just avoid the angry people hammering their keyboard with their fists. Mainly use it to promote something I'm doing or promote other people and then run away from it very quickly. I'm on Blue Sky as well. And what else am I on? Instagram, I think I've mentioned as also. I tend to post a lot of pictures from the gigs I go to or promote other people's gigs. So it's not just about me. It's about the music I love. So, which I think is quite nice because hopefully people follow me, especially locally, to find out what's going on or what they should have gone to because it was really good.
Thank you. Let me chat to you again today.
You're welcome. I'll always be happy to do an interview with you, Ruben. Perhaps see you next year for next year's EP.
Definitely. We should make arrangements for that.
Yeah, most definitely.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers. Thank you, Ruben.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.